The first wave. In The Impossible, there's no classic Hollywood exaggeration because everything shown is based on a real event. A family is on vacation in Thailand, enjoying peaceful days at a luxury resort. Maria is there with her husband and children. Everything is calm, everything is normal, until the sound starts. It's a strange, deep noise getting closer and closer. And then, the ocean simply rushes in. The water hits with unbelievable force, destroying everything in its path within seconds. And what makes it even heavier is the point of view. The camera follows Maria being dragged by the current. She tries to breathe, tries to hold on to anything, but the water gives her no chance. Everything around her becomes dangerous. Ordinary objects turn into threats. It's disorienting. When she finally manages to surface, another shock hits. Where there used to be a lively resort, now there's only scattered debris, uprooted trees, and silence. This scene is one of the most uncomfortable to watch because it feels way too real. Director J.A. Bayona used massive water tanks and practical effects to recreate the tsunami for real. That explains why every second of the scene feels so heavy and physical. The final wave. In Deep Impact, scientists discover that a giant comet is on a collision course with Earth.
This comet is larger than Mount Everest. It weighs 500 billion tons.
And even with desperate missions trying to stop it, part of it, the fragment Biedermann, still makes it through and hits the planet. And that's where the scene begins. The impact happens in the middle of the ocean. Silence for 1 second, and then the sea literally rises. It's not a normal wave, it's an absurd wall of water, hundreds of meters high, moving forward like nothing can stop it. The destruction starts far away, but it arrives fast. New York is directly in the impact path, and the image is iconic. The water swallows everything, rises past the Statue of Liberty, and floods Manhattan like the city never existed. But the heaviest moment isn't in the city, it's on the beach. Jenny Lerner, a journalist who followed the entire crisis, decides not to run. She finds her father, with whom she had a complicated relationship, and chooses to stay there with him. And that changes everything, because unlike other disaster movies, there's no last-minute heroics here, no miracle, just acceptance. The last breath. In Pompeii, we follow Milo, a slave-turned-gladiator, and Cassia, the daughter of a wealthy family, while the city keeps functioning normally, ignoring the signs that Mount Vesuvius is about to erupt. When the eruption begins, the chaos comes in layers. First tremors, then fire and rocks falling from the sky. And in the middle of all this, the arena collapses. What was once entertainment becomes desperation. Gladiators and spectators are trapped as parts of the structure give way, opening cracks and bringing everything down around them. The famous Lapilli rain turns the streets into a field of destruction, striking houses, soldiers, and anyone trying to escape. At the same time, the harbor becomes a trap when a tsunami hits the city, destroying ships and sweeping away crowds who thought the sea would be their only way out. But nothing compares to the ending. The pyroclastic wave comes down from Vesuvius like an impossible wall to escape. Anyone left behind has no chance. Milo and Cassia, meanwhile, get a more poetic ending. They find each other in the middle of the chaos and, with nowhere left to go, simply stay together as the cloud approaches. The final image of them embracing says everything. That ending scene was directly inspired by the preserved bodies found in Pompeii, showing people frozen in time at the exact moment of the disaster. The bomb. Outbreak begins in 1967 in an isolated region of Zaire where a mercenary camp suffers a violent outbreak of an unknown virus. Things spiral out of control quickly, the infected have no treatment, no effective isolation, and the disease spreads through the camp with no barriers. When the military arrives, there's no rescue attempt left. The decision made there isn't to save anyone, it's to contain it. And in this case, containment means wiping everything out. Under direct orders from the generals, a bomber is sent to the location. The plan is to drop a thermobaric bomb and completely eliminate the source of the infection. The explosion happens within seconds. The entire camp disappears. No structures, no evidence, no one left to tell the story. The area is completely neutralized as if it never existed. What makes it heavier is that there were still people there. Some sick, others not even understanding what was happening, but still hoping the government was coming to save them. This scene establishes the movie's moral tone right from the beginning. Before the virus even spreads to the rest of the world, it's already clear how far certain authorities are willing to go. The theater. In Twisters, the story follows storm chasers who spend their lives chasing tornadoes to study and predict their movements. Kate carries deep trauma after losing part of her team during a mission gone wrong. In other words, she already knows exactly what these things are capable of. But the movie makes a point of proving it can always get worse. The climax happens in El Reno inside an old movie theater. It seems like safe shelter. Thick walls, enclosed structure. People gather together trying to protect themselves while a massive tornado approaches. And then the tornado arrives. The back wall starts giving way. The entire structure shakes. What was once a refuge turns into a direct window into chaos. Wind bursts in, objects get sucked away, and everyone realizes there is no truly safe place. That false sense of security disappears right in front of everyone. The film builds that impact further with other strong sequences too, like the visually wild fire tornado, blending destruction with an almost surreal setting. Before we continue, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos. It helps us a lot. Thank you. The Frozen Wave. In the day after tomorrow, accelerated climate changes throw everything into chaos, and within days the world enters an extreme state. Giant storms, brutal cold, out-of-control events, and New York becomes the center of it all. The sequence begins with everything already in chaos. The sea surges toward the city with force, creating an immediate sense of danger and urgency. Then a massive wave appears, growing fast and charging straight toward Manhattan. There's no time to evacuate. The water floods the city with full force. Streets disappear, cars get swept away, everything becomes part of the current. It's one of those moments where the scale is so absurd your brain takes a second to process it. The main characters manage to take shelter in the New York Public Library, and after the impact, the water settles. The film was directed by Roland Emmerich, who was already known for destroying entire cities and movies. Here, he took it to another level by mixing climate disaster with direct survival horror, and when the cold arrives right after, it becomes clear that the wave was only the beginning. The impossible escape. In 2012, we follow Jackson Curtis, a writer trying to keep his family together while everything around him starts going wrong. And when the collapse finally begins, there's no preparing for it. The scene explodes in Los Angeles. Jackson is driving a limousine, trying to escape with his kids and ex-wife when the city literally starts collapsing. The asphalt splits open, buildings tilt, overpasses break apart in the middle, and all of it happens behind them like the world itself is chasing the car. The tension comes from the detail. Every second, the car almost falls into an abyss, almost gets hit by debris, almost gets trapped. As they keep moving, Los Angeles stops existing. Skyscrapers slide apart, streets turn into giant cracks, and the skyline gets swallowed whole. Much of this sequence mixed CGI with massive practical miniatures being physically destroyed. That gives the collapses and explosions a real weight that a lot of digital effects today still can't replicate. The bridge. In San Andreas, the San Andreas Fault collapses and turns all of California into a non-stop field of destruction. Ray Gaines, a rescue pilot, tries to cross that disaster zone to save his daughter, but the planet never makes it easy for him. The Golden Gate Bridge sequence is where everything escalates completely. After a series of devastating earthquakes, a tsunami begins forming in the ocean and moves straight toward San Francisco. The city is already weakened, structures are compromised, and people are trying to flee without knowing where to go. Then the water arrives. The wave pushes a massive cargo ship straight toward the bridge. The ship tears through everything and splits the structure in half. Within seconds, the bridge stops being an escape route and becomes a trap. What makes this scene work is the progression. First the earthquake, then urban chaos, and finally the wave that finishes everything. The resort in flames. In Skyfire, a luxury resort was built on a volcanic island, packed with tourists, technology, and promises of total safety. The protagonist, Lee Xiaoqi, carries old trauma connected to volcanic eruptions. So from the very beginning, there's that feeling that something is going to go wrong. And it does. When the volcano actually erupts, the movie completely shifts gears. Burning rocks start falling from the sky, slamming directly into the resort. Structures collapse, entire sections are destroyed within seconds, and hundreds of people are trapped with no clear escape route. What makes this hit hard is the scale. It's not just the main characters running. There are people everywhere trying to escape, while the environment around them disappears. The heat moves in, visibility vanishes, and the whole place turns into a maze of destruction. And the movie carries emotional weight from the start. The opening scene shows Xiaoqi's mother dying in an earlier eruption. It's not just random backstory. It comes back hard here because everything she feared is happening again, on a much bigger scale. The impact. In Greenland, the story follows John Garrity, his wife Allison, and their son Nathan, a regular family trying to survive as the comet Clark approaches Earth. At first, there's still hope with military plans, evacuation routes, and people believing everything can be controlled. But that illusion ends fast. Before the main impact, the movie already gives a brutal warning, with the fragment rain on the highway. People trapped in traffic with nowhere to go, looking up at the sky while pieces of the comet start falling. Panic sets in within seconds, but that still isn't the end. The true breaking point comes in the climax, when the main fragment finally hits Earth. The family is already near the bunkers in Greenland, and that's where they witness the impact from. The sky completely changes, filled with light and fire. The shockwave spreads across the entire planet, wiping out cities within seconds. As they enter the bunker, everything outside simply stops existing. The surface is swept clean, like the planet is being reset. The Rain of Fire. In Armageddon, scientists discover that a massive asteroid is heading toward Earth, but before it arrives, smaller fragments already start hitting the planet. And that's where the movie shows the real problem. The New York sequence is the first major shock. Without warning, meteors begin crashing into the city. It's not one isolated strike, it's several. One hits near Grand Central, another explodes close to iconic buildings, and within seconds, what was normal daily life turns into total chaos. What makes it so tense is the speed. People are just walking around living normally. Then suddenly everything changes, and there's no time to understand what's happening. And there's one detail that hits even harder today. In the scene, the Twin Towers are shown being struck by debris. At the time, it was just another visual element in the chaos. After the events of 2001, that image took on a completely different meaning. A lot of people revisit that scene today with real discomfort. The movie reinforces the scale by showing destruction in other places too, like Paris being nearly wiped out. Directed by Michael Bay, the film became famous for its exaggerated, high-energy style filled with fast cuts and large-scale destruction. And here, the message is simple. The worst hasn't even arrived yet, and the world is already falling apart. No escape. In these final hours, the world is already over. An asteroid has hit the other side of the planet, and all that's left is waiting for the effects to arrive. There's no salvation plan, no scientists trying to reverse anything, just people dealing with the final hours of their lives. The story follows James, an ordinary guy who starts the movie with little purpose, lost in the middle of the social chaos breaking out around him. He decides to ignore his girlfriend and go to one last party before death comes. In the middle of all that, he crosses paths with Rose, a young girl searching for her father, and that relationship completely changes his path. Before the end, James decides to leave Rose at her father's house, believing that she would be safer there and have a more dignified end. After fulfilling this, he returns to his old home, where he reunites with his ex-girlfriend. It is with her that he spends his final moments. With no escape and no hope of salvation, the two simply accept the inevitable. On the horizon, the end appears, a wall of light and heat advancing rapidly. They remain together, embracing, as everything is consumed. The screen is gradually overtaken by white until it fades out completely. The Last Dinner. In Don't Look Up, the apocalypse is announced in advance. Two scientists discover a giant comet on a collision course with Earth. They warn everyone, but nobody takes it as seriously as they should. Time passes, bad decisions are made, and by the time people realize the truth, it's too late. The final scene doesn't try to compete with spectacle. It does the opposite and makes everything more emotional. As the comet approaches, a small group gathers for a simple dinner at the home of Kate Dibiasky, one of the protagonists. These are the people who spent the whole movie trying to stop it. Scientists, friends, ordinary people who just wanted more time. The conversation is calm, with them talking about simple things, memories, little details of everyday life. There's a quiet acceptance in the air because they know it's over, and that hits harder than any explosion. While dinner goes on, the world outside is already collapsing. The sky changes, the light becomes strange, and Earth begins reacting to the imminent impact. People everywhere are panicking in the face of death, but the camera chooses to stay inside, focused on those people enjoying their final dinner until the very end. Then the house starts shaking, and suddenly, this scene lands so well because it trades spectacle for human connection. After so much debate and so many mistakes, the end comes in the simplest way possible. The Final Leap. In Volcano, the chaos begins in the middle of the city with a pretty absurd premise. Los Angeles is going through its normal routine until something strange starts happening at the La Brea tar pits, where the ground begins to boil, tar rises up, and within seconds, everything spirals out of control. The eruption begins with no real warning. An explosion sends manhole covers flying through the air, and burning debris slams into nearby buildings. There's no time to evacuate, and the city is caught completely off guard. And what comes next is pure chaos. Lava starts flowing down Wilshire Boulevard like a slow flood that's impossible to stop. Cars get trapped, rescue teams try to respond, but everything around them becomes dangerous. The sky darkens with smoke, and it feels like the entire city is being swallowed piece by piece. The movie alternates between large-scale destruction and personal moments. While authorities try to contain the flow by building makeshift barriers and spraying water to slow the lava, other moments showed the direct impact on ordinary people. The subway sequence returns here as one of the most intense parts, with civilians trapped while the heat closes in and no clear escape. Can you think of any other disaster scene as terrifying as the ones we showed in this video? If so, let us know in the comments. On screen is a video where we show disturbing horror movies inspired by true events. Click and watch. I'll see you there.